Understanding how dogs learn will help you train your pup more effectively, and it will also deepen your appreciation for the work you do with your dog. Dogs learn in two ways: through the immediate consequences of their actions, known as operant conditioning, and by association, called classical conditioning. Conditioning just means learning, by the way. In this video, we will focus on operant conditioning. With this type of learning, dogs learn that their actions have consequences. Behavior is a function of its consequences. What is reinforced or rewarded will occur more often. What is punished will occur less often. For example, if a puppy gets a treat each time she sits, but she gets ignored when she jumps up on her human, she will learn to sit more and jump less. Operant conditioning is different from classical conditioning in that the puppy must perform a behavior in order for the consequence to occur. In other words, the behavior operates on the environment to produce or not produce a reward. There is a lot to know about operant learning, but we'll try to keep this as simple as possible. As an example, let's pretend you are trying to teach your new puppy Fifi to be calm and polite when meeting people. Scenario 1. You approach Fifi. Fifi sits politely. You pet Fifi. In this example, Fifi demonstrated the behavior you wanted, sitting, and she was rewarded for it. This is known as positive reinforcement. It's important to understand that when referring to positive and negative reinforcement, we are not referring to whether the consequence is subjectively a positive or negative experience. The subjective experience is categorized as either reinforcement or punishment. In the context of learning, the words positive and negative are used in the math sense. Positive means you are adding a consequence, whether that consequence is desirable or undesirable. And negative means you are removing or taking something away. In scenario 1, adding cheerful attention when Fifi demonstrates the desired behavior will increase the desired behavior. Let's look at scenario 2. You approach Fifi. She jumps up on you and nips your sleeve. You respond by standing up and leaving the room. This is an example of negative punishment. Remember, negative means subtract or remove. In this case, you removed yourself and your affection from the equation. Because this consequence is undesirable to your puppy, it is considered to be a punishment. By removing your attention when Fifi demonstrates the unwanted behavior, you are causing the unwanted behavior to decrease. Here at the Homeschooled Pooch, we prefer to use positive reinforcement to reward wanted behaviors as much as possible, and to discourage unwanted behaviors by removal of the potential reward through negative punishment, such as in the first two scenarios. However, there are two other scenarios to consider. Scenario 3 tends to be pretty unpleasant for Fifi. You approach and Fifi jumps up on you. Your roommate has a leash and a prong collar on Fifi and responds by yanking the leash and giving her a correction. This too will result in a decrease in the unwanted behavior. Both scenario 2 and scenario 3 result theoretically in a decrease in the unwanted jumping. However, one scenario is much gentler and much more appropriate for a baby dog than the other. And finally, we have scenario 4, negative reinforcement. This time, Fifi's leash is attached to a flat nylon collar or a harness. Your roommate is giving Fifi just enough leash length that the leash has slack as long as Fifi doesn't jump. Fifi jumps on you, and the leash goes tight and prevents her from making physical contact with you. As soon as Fifi sits again, the leash pressure is taken away from the equation. This encourages Fifi to sit. It increases the desired behavior. Let's look more closely at scenario 4, though. Negative reinforcement and positive punishment are like yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. In order to remove the undesired consequence in scenario 4, the leash pressure, you first need to apply leash pressure. Applying the leash pressure in the first place is positive punishment, meant to decrease the jumping behavior. Once Fifi sits, you remove that unpleasantness, which serves to increase the sitting behavior. Here's a new scenario. Your new Australian Shepherd lives to fetch a tennis ball, but he barks incessantly for you to throw the ball, and you'd like to discourage the barking. You take Rex out to the backyard, put some earplugs in, and grab the ball. You wait patiently as Rex barks and barks at you, demanding that you throw the ball. Rex's barking has a consequence. The ball does not get thrown. Where on the chart do you think this scenario belongs? This is an example of negative punishment. You are withholding the tennis ball, which Rex considers to be a punishment. Eventually, Rex finally stops barking for a few seconds. You respond by tossing the tennis ball for Rex to fetch. Where on the chart does this scenario belong? This is positive reinforcement. You are giving Rex the reward he wants in order to reinforce the behavior that you want. In this case, the lack of barking. In future videos, we'll discuss other concepts of operant conditioning and how to apply these concepts to your own training. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and be the first to know when we post new content.